Hello, guys, from our Build and Blaze TV. I'm a little bit sleepy. This is our 8th day of activities. We are on the 17 at 17. That means today we're talking about the goal number 8, that is decent work and economic growth. We have today a wonderful guest. I'm going to introduce her a little bit later. And now let me introduce you to Radia Funna. She is a wonderful strategist, futurist, and as I've been saying, she has a theory. It's about ex-human. This theory talks about the coevolution between machines and humans. So today we're doing kind of this experiment, and we're using technology to talk about all these wonderful person like Greta, that they are changing the world, but you don't know they're changing the world because, I mean, it's a little bit hard like to know all the people is doing something. So I'm going to pass the torch to Radia. Radia, thank you for being here and good morning, Sunshine.
Good morning, Sunshine, and good morning to our special guest. I am thrilled to be here as always. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. And as we like to do at the beginning of the show, I like to just get in and tell you kind of where we are. Day 8, very exciting. SDG 8, decent work and economic growth. We have walked through with our 17 at 17 initiatives since the beginning of the United Nations General Assembly on the 17th of September. We have walked through now going on, well, this is now our 8th SDG. We started with 1, no poverty, went to 2, zero hunger, went to 3, good health and well-being, 4, quality education, 5, gender equality, 6, clean water and sanitation. Yesterday we did 7, affordable and clean energy. And that brings us right to 8, decent work and economic growth. We have a wonderful guest today. And if you remember and you have been watching us, you will know that the premise of this show is my theory of the exponential human, what we are calling the ex-human. And the fact that I believe that this ex-human is the most powerful human yet. And that if we are to meet the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030, and just a quick background on those, the Sustainable Development Goals are 17 goals that are part of the 2030 agenda that the United Nations, member states of the United Nations, 193 countries, signed onto in 2015. The goal is that for every goal, we are to meet them by 2030. And I believe as we are almost 10 years out, that for us to do so, we have to open up the kimono a little bit and give people more information on these goals so we can partner with the world to meet them by 2030. So without further ado, I'm going to kick this back over to you, Mayra, for you to introduce our guest. And thank you.
Thank you, Radia. Well, I like to start this introduction with a specific phrase Greta used yesterday when she was talking in the climate summit. Mm-hmm. She was saying, we are in the beginning of a mass extinction, and all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. And I want to start with this because today, yes, our goal is about economic growth. I do believe if we want to have zero hunger, no poverty, we need to have economic growth indeed, but also we need to see the human way, a social way to do all together, to have economic growth and to be to care about others. So now, as I said this, I'm going to introduce Noha Kikhia. Did I say it right?
That's correct.
Okay. She's the managing director of Lab 4 or Lab 4, and she's been working she's our Mexican Greta. But we have so many Gretas in the world, and this Build and Blaze TV show is extraordinary work. And today is the time for more about her. Welcome.
Thank you.
Greta.
Greta when I grow up, so I will take it. So much for having me on the show today. I was saying right before we aired that SDG 8 about that inspired to build the better world that we're all fighting in the conversation. When I think what we're realizing is that we necessarily equate prosperity to human dignity. Grow when our GDP rates are the ones to less poverty. And I think that's why connecting economic growth to decent work, because what we're saying is that our economy needs to grow sustainable commercial activity that is honored for the human that they are. Is the initiative that I run in collaboration with Mexico. Is that how to focus on decent economic growth and work in Mexico is to focus on SMEs, pymes. The small enterprises in Mexico are such, and that is something that isn't a conversation of how do we support small business and small business owners, but in Mexico it is especially 8% of 40 to 50% of the national GDP. What we're realizing is that they have a huge productivity gap between small businesses and look at just a snapshot of a period from 1999 to 2009, where large enterprises in Mexico were growing 5.5% a year. They were really carrying the economy, really allowing that growth in that same period. Much businesses in terms of country are small and medium sized. 1%, so that's great. Same time, they were decreased 5%. So we really in Mexico, and we believe that technology is so growing. They were able to connect internationally, adopt more technologies, and really is what we focus on and what we're dedicated to support small business owners. Have a diagnostic tool that small scale of 1 to 4 level of technological maturity. From there, at what perhaps it would take that when we talk and when you're a small business owner, I myself intelligence my own company is something that it's not really. We built a curriculum agnostic, depending on where they're at on the scale of 1 to 4, to start as this normative capacity is how much to detect new technologies and innovation trends and implement it into their operations to be more. That's the summary of that really are having. Anything that we're seeing is Mexico, and it's typically similarly to wearing the glasses that I'm wearing and new apps, but there's many small businesses in Mexico that are run by families, and they're run by perhaps people who weren't digital natives and are learning new ways to use technology to improve.
So many things.
Yes.
I think every time you say enterprises, I'm just thinking about ex-humans. So Radia, I have a question for you. Humans, when we're talking about a small and medium business, I mean, she's gonna be back with us. This Radia and I have a technical problem.
Yeah.
So we're trying to do something like.
Yes, our program is in using technology and problems. So
That happens always. And that also tells us like the internet connection. I mean, I'm talking about machine learning. I kind of have these difficulties.
Yeah.
We're like doing a simple streaming.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
we are like, we have
How
to.
productive.
Let me see if she's coming to you, and I tell you when I'm okay. Size enterprises.
I think it's exactly that. I think it's the question of technology. Medium-sized will survive after 2 years of their founding. It's really hard up front when you don't know your sales or how it's going to help you reduce costs, right? And so I think that's a really big challenge is breaking some of that it takes a lot of time, that it's not worth the investment, which are things that are is that technology for the large enterprises integration systems that big enterprises are using, and they haven't really with the emergence of cloud computing and really changed and allowed us to use these types of applications that are not very hard small businesses.
Okay. Thank you there, Sunshine.
Yes. Audio, but there's something going on. So I'm a little frozen, my friends. I apologize. You had asked me what that was. Huh?
to make productive, more productive. A really interesting theory about ex-human and how humans use technology is being created recently to exponentially become like better humans. So how do we use these and medium enterprises and daily lives, but they do not have the right for their enterprises? So how enterprises, Radia?
I think the short answer, Mayra, is just that. When I it started really when I was working with these different ecosystems as I was trying to bring them into the United Nations, because at the time the UN system. Realized there were people who did not seem like the people that you did. They were connected. They were developed for. So it's funny that we have the conversation now that the connected individual's ability to is corporate America, Fortune 1000, and I come from the world of worrying about the organizational strategy for organizations. And so, hey, there's this crazy about our change management strategies. Before, it was not a disruption. We, the human, different. We were becoming something, and that is our former selves, at least, but an evolved version of our former self, a version that pretty much your question of how medium enterprises, how to do AI. I can't even begin learning. I don't have a huge factory in my life where I myself am just running around doing this business. Agree with me on this is it starts from this very more power on the moon, and most of us have that. A few years ago, judging their global what is it called, their global challenges as part of their annual event. There was a global challenge. The part that I was judging was energy, and we talked about energy yesterday. And there was a very she was an inventor. I should call her an inventor. She had invented something really interesting, which was how to power, thank you, power without electricity. And when she came up with these kerosene, because a lot of our villages are burning with kerosene, it's so dangerous. So she said, well, can we use salt water to power these lamps? But one of the other pieces of this lamp, which is very interesting, was that she had a USB port. Don't have electricity. Quite a few of us have cell phones. So I think that this connectivity, ex-human is connected. We were a few minutes ago, but even when connected via the cell phone, via equipment, study where we found out, I can't remember the numbers now, but that I want to say 75% of humanity is about 20 minutes tower, but Wi-Fi, right, has, even if they're not connected right at this second, they have the you can't even think about that. It is exactly what I was talking about with the global hive. It's via the internet, via all our mobile services, that a world like what Lab 4 is talking about, when Lab 4 is saying we need to help the small technology in the context of their business, some of our old-fashioned ways of running business in our hands. Put that into perspective for us. In an even bigger factory, for you to, there are free apps that help you track your employees' hours across borders. When I, for example, or Europe, especially Asia, though, was super expensive, and now we can practically for free, as you could be. So I'm hoping that answers.
I had a few clients because I do develop websites, and they told me I have regular clients.
Sorry to interrupt you. Mind starting that over?
I said, have a question for Noha. Taking what you just said, like we don't have to adopt technology like machine learning. Sometimes by so, because as I was saying, I have a few clients go online and get a website. They're setting okay and it's fine. But what I'm telling you, just connected online, I mean, Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter. Mm-hmm. So the chances, even 5 years, have to be online, because maybe you're actually customer, they might change for another options. Because so my question, services or technology do you provide? Which are the levels?
Great question. I we talk about technologies that are, when you look at that are being adopted, they are making is still very expensive. These are not technologies, and if they are, of technological maturity. A device that could be a computer or a phone, basic software, maybe processors and spreadsheets. Talk about it's blowing up, and the more infrastructure we have for internet connectivity, the better. And is really where you can start your transformational journey. And for level 1, we focus I'm like, how do you say materia prima? Data is the raw material for all. Saying digital and everything are online, and I think that's something in Mexico that is really exciting. Is that the government has started requiring small businesses to digitalize their accounting position where future sales, all these types of things are so we can tell uses of the cloud. How do you put your basic things like that? The next step up are tech companies that are level 2. They typically have their data that they're focusing on is how do I optimize my processes? How do I improve my use of digital channels and my social networks and my website, all those different accounting softwares, to see that not only are you putting your information online, you're starting to organize your something like a Monday or basic tools that, once again, are not expensive, are things that you can really improve your business by using. And then level 3 companies typically are already using apps. They might already have some sort of it doesn't also have to be an ERP. What we're seeing a lot now is if you use a bunch of different applications, they're starting to integrate other technologies. So you don't need a huge enterprise software, but what is connected to other things that you're using, right? And so for level 3 companies, what we're really starting to focus on is those types to introduce data analytics, big data, and some of those new technologies that improve their businesses and make better decisions from there. And that are big businesses, right? Companies that are already using all the analytics and already doing all these things. That's right where we're at. And I think it's really interesting. I know structure and all. I think it's interesting that in today's conversation, so much of it is to take a step back and realize so continue another way to grow. When we look at startups that have scalable business models, the vast majority of them are using technologies because that is really the way forward. To take a step and what have the consequences been. And I think those are consequences clearly on the environment, like we heard from Radia yesterday. Those rights and workers' well-being. And I think as these new economic growth look like in the future, and how do we connect that to decent work, technology is an opportunity for us. It's a big thing that I think will either the growth that we're seeing, the way that we saw it, but really also presents a potential opportunity to create economies where we are able to grow and create better work for people.
Thank you, Noha. Let me go back to you. At this point, she's not getting any enterprises that they are using this data, so they become better. I think even the government, like with 17 goals, trying. We are not using the knowledge and the history and the numbers and the data we were creating. I mean, we don't have anything like in the cloud or for the future. If you were, there's two of them. If you, which a government also in order to get these goals done. I mean, talking about knowledge.
My goodness. You definitely, if I can answer this in a way that makes sense. I were a small company, I would say the best technology to so I would go into the world of like that's a little bit, it's not extremely expensive, but it could be a little, and I would bring that up for a small business, is that pieces that you need at least, but if you cannot afford, adopt is the internet. Great startup kit, because it can give you Word, which you have to pay for. You can do Note for free, you know, so Google, you don't have to pay for you know, so it'll allow you to at least organize yourself to get started. So I guess what I would say is that the ground that can give you an email address, a way to do your documents, whether the data or their doc, and you're just writing documents for your daily work, etc. And you can also do presentations, entire business run off of that in the beginning, and then you can go from there. So the first thing I would say with governments is that they are often, believe it or not, I remember when I on the 13th floor of the Secretariat building, we had a very area, and I even launched an innovation unit there. The connection between democracy, because I don't want it to seem insulting, but it's just there's a massive kind of legal rigmarole. And I think that what needs to be that divide between what technology almost becomes somewhat bureaucratic, that element and overcome to get anything done. And I think sometimes that really gets in the way. If they are already, not every government, but quite a few, these technologies, it's just a matter of where overcome some of those governmental challenges to get there. Of course, conversation, Noha and Mayra, but over time, so I'll leave it there with a big thank you to Noha. Wonderful conversation. Would love to do it again, and would over to you again, Mayra.
Thank you, Radia. Well, this is not over. This is just the beginning, as you were saying, Radia. And this is just the beginning in Mexico. We do believe we can. And what you are doing, Noha, is really fantastic. Open for you this space, and we are planning to have more trying to make workshops in the future. Watching us.
I think it's. We talk a lot about at Mexico Media Lab how we need to reinvent capitalism, and we need to. When we think about the SDGs, I think it's a great framework to realize what are the other goals and what are the other important elements of our life as we grow our economy. I'm very passionate to get to that point. Important to realize and logical, and we need to accept that and make sure that everyone has decent work.
Thank you. Muchas gracias, Noha. Thank you. And we see you tomorrow at 11 Mexico. Industry, infrastructure, and innovation with our friends from see you guys. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram.